Okay, well, it's a few minutes past the hour, so I think we could start our Tasmanian Parkinson's Project webinar. I've got Sam, who's driving the slides today, and I've got Barbara here, who I'll give a proper introduction to in a moment. Next slide, please, Sam. So before we start, we'd just like to acknowledge the First Nations people of the land. We're meeting here, the land of Lutruwita, Tasmania, and we acknowledge the Palawa Pakana people, who are the traditional owners of the land that we live and we work on. And we pay our respects to the elders past and present as their knowledge holders and sharers. We stand for a future that profoundly respects and acknowledges Aboriginal perspectives, culture, language and history. Thank you. Next slide, please. So I think most of you know me. I'm Jane Alty. I'm a neurologist at the Royal Hobart Hospital, so I'm a medically practicing doctor, and I'm also a researcher here at the University of Tasmania. And I'll be a familiar face because you've seen me on lots of webinars. And I'd also like to introduce Barbara, who's come all the way from Canada today, and we're absolutely delighted to have Barbara with us today. So I'll just let Barbara say a few words for herself. We'll be hearing lots more from her later in the webinar. Over to you, Barbara.
Thank you. Well, it's an honor to be here, and my name's Barbara Salsberg Mathews. And as an artist, educator, and former professional mime, and with a master's degree in education from OISE and 25 plus years of high school art, teaching art and drama, I now use these talents to champion Parkinson's awareness. And I created a book, paperback and ebook called What Parkinson's Feels Like with Parkinson's Europe. And that book illustrates the PD symptoms through the eyes of people all over the world. And my art also includes re-illustrating the 5 stages of Parkinson's using diverse young women. And I also serve on the Canadian Open Parkinson's Network and their community advisory committee, drawing on my mind improvisation and touring theater company experience. I'm making PD my bitch, one day at a time.
Thank you, Barbara. Is there anything you don't do? I think that's the bigger question.
I don't do windows.
Well, actually, one thing you didn't mention there in your introduction is that you were also one of the stars of the show for the Parkinson's Massive Open Online course, the MOOC, which many of our viewers will be familiar with as well. So if you think Barbara looks familiar, it's because you've seen her there probably. And Sam, could you give an introduction as well, please?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Sam. I'm a research assistant with our Tasmanian Parkinson's Project, also doing some PhD research with Jane into isolated REM sleep behaviour disorder at the University of Tasmania. So I'm here to help out with the slides and help with the Q&A at the end of this webinar.
Thank you, Sam. And I've just reminded everybody there, we absolutely love your questions. We love your comments. We want this to be interactive. So as we're talking, please don't hold back. Please put your questions and your ideas and comments if you look at the bottom of the screen. Now, Sam, I always get this wrong. Is it the Q&A or is it the chat function?
It is a chat function, yes. All
right, so ignore what it says there on the screen. It's actually not the Q&A. Go to the bottom and put them into the chat. And what will happen is when I have finished speaking and Barbara's finished speaking, Sam will read out your questions. And then we'll have a go at sort of having a discussion and a bit more interaction. So if you think of them as you're going along, pop them in, or at the end, either's fine. But we love your questions. Next slide, please. So most of this webinar is going to be about Barbara and Barbara's work, and I know that's what you've all really joined for. I can see we've almost got 150 people online, which is fabulous. But just a quick update from me, literally just 4 or 5 minutes. So a quick update on the Tasmanian Parkinson's Project. Thank you to everybody that's joined. We cannot do this project without you, and we're delighted that we've got over 3,500 people now that have joined the Tasmania Parkinson's Project. And if you look at that map on the left, where the red parts are, that's where we've got lots and lots of people that have joined. And where the green parts are, we've got fewer, but we've still got lots of people. So we are delighted that so many people have joined. We're aiming for 5,000, so spread the word. Anybody, frankly, can join, whether they have Parkinson's, they're a family member of somebody with Parkinson's, or they're just interested. So nothing to hold you back. What do you get if you join up? You get free webinars like this one. You get newsletters, you get the latest news, you get opportunities to take part in research. And we also invite people to come in to take part in things like advisory groups, and we have seminars and so on. So it's just a really nice interactive community. And you can do it from the comfort of your own home, or you can come in for some of those in-person events. Next slide, please. So I think most of you know about the MOOC, the Massive Open Online Course. You can see Barbara there on the top left because she was one of the people that took part in that. And we were so lucky. We had almost 100 people that agreed to be interviewed, to share their stories, literally from all over the world, who took part in that Massive Open Online Course. As you can see there, 25,000 people have signed up for this course, which is just amazing because it means we're spreading that knowledge, we're increasing awareness of Parkinson's, and we're driving down stigma because there's a lot of myths out there, aren't there, on Parkinson's, and we're trying to address all of that. And where those big red spots are on the world map, that's where we had lots and lots of people doing the MOOC, and the smaller spots where we had fewer. But as you can see, it literally has spread around the world from Tasmania. So that's just wonderful. Thank you. It's currently offline because we're analysing people's feedback, making small changes, but it will be back online probably around September. So watch this space. And you can sign up for it now if you're interested as well. Just put Parkinson's MOOC and UTAS and you'll see a little web page there. Next slide, please. So what's coming up next? As I said, we've got some more webinars, almost one webinar every month for the rest of the year on all sorts of topics. I think we've got one coming up from a dietitian. What else have we got coming up, Sam, over the next few months?
We've got some eye biomarker research.
Oh, yes, so the visual changes with Parkinson's. You're all going to be experts by the end of these webinars. And we're also inviting people to come into the university if they're in Tasmania for some movement analysis. So thank you to everybody that's already done that. Next slide, please. So this is the thing I want you to look out for next. It's called TAS Test or Tasmanian Test. What is it? It's a really simple computer test that you do at home. And you'll be getting email invites saying, please will you take part in TAS Test? And you click on a little link and it takes you through step by step a few different tasks. So you can see here on the top right, we've got somebody holding their hands up to the computer screen. And if you've got a slight tremor, the computer screen can measure that tremor. And then we'll get you to also tap your finger and your thumb. You'll have done that when you go to see your doctor, and we can measure the speed of that. Why are we doing this? We're doing this really to help people in the future that may be diagnosed with Parkinson's to get a diagnosis quicker, because it's very common that people wait a few years to be diagnosed. So we're trying to develop a new way of testing for Parkinson's early. And we need lots of people with Parkinson's and without Parkinson's to do this TAS test so we can work out what are the best tests for us to do that. If you take part in this, there is also a good chance that in the future we'll be able to give you those results back. We're still working on that a little bit, but we hope to plot out people's results so that you can see, if you do it every year, how things are changing over time. I mentioned there, it's not just about hand movements. We do do a few little memory tests and a few speech tests as well. It's entirely voluntary. You don't have to do it, but we would obviously love as many people to do it as possible, because working together, this is how we're going to improve things for people with Parkinson's. So look out for those invites. They're coming out, I think, next month, actually. So thank you for taking part in that in advance. Next slide, please. So this is, I think, the last slide from me, just to remind everybody, if you've got friends and family who are interested in supporting Parkinson's or people living with Parkinson's, please tell them about our project, the Tasmanian Parkinson's Project. It takes 2 minutes to sign up. And if they sign up, they'll get invites to all these sorts of webinars and research and so on. So we're aiming for 5,000. We're almost there. I'm an optimist. Keep spreading the word, everybody. Next slide, please. Well, that's enough from me. I know you didn't really come for my bit. That was just a little bit of an update. I think everyone came for Barbara. And Barbara, I think this is one of our record turnouts today. Literally hundreds of people have been fascinated in your talk. So I'm going to hand over now to you, Barbara, and I can't wait to hear all about your work.
Thank you. Well, from mimicking strangers on European streets to navigating my own Parkinson's symptoms, the art of mime has shaped my life in truly unexpected ways. 50 years after my professional mime days, I'm now harnessing the power of mime to reclaim my movement and my future. In January 2020, a neurologist delivered the news: Parkinson's, a progressive disease with no known cure. And the diagnostic was a seismic shock, and it was ripping my world apart. "Get me out of here," I cried. My husband, I was grappling with this new future that I never imagined would happen. And yet through that raw pain, a resolve emerged. I'm not my disease. I'm a person with Parkinson's, and I will live life fully. My neurologist, he initially recognized that I had Parkinson's disease just by the way I walked. And he said to me, "You're not moving your right arm." And I had no idea I was not doing that. I also was dragging my right foot and slouching, and I didn't have facial expression. So my face was like this, like a poker face. Well, thanks to mime, if I came back to that same neurologist and did his office, he wouldn't know I have mime. I'll fool him, and I'm going to show you what I do. Well, to walk normally, I tap into the power of imagery. For example, my shoulders were slouching, so I decided I'm going to swallow a coat hanger. So visualize a coat hanger. And when I swallow it in my mind's eye, my shoulders immediately are corrected. I also use imagery to visualize a marionette wire. For example, you can imagine I have a wire moving my wrist around. So I now have a wire almost all the time, except when I'm lying down and resting, on the back of my crown pulling me up. And I also imagine a wire on my right arm, which makes that arm move when I walk. Okay, so those are a few things that have really helped me out. But there's more involved, and that's mindful movement, where you repeat something with your full focus, and that becomes motor memory. I used to call that muscle memory, but the muscles don't remember, it's the movement through the brain. So I want to try with you some facial isolations, because this is how I got my face to wake up and start showing facial expression rather than like hypomimia, I believe is the name for like frozen Parkinson mask. So we're going to try this together. And don't worry, I'm not marking you, and I will not report this to your parents. But start by moving your eyebrows, and then we'll move down through the bottom of the face, so the nose, the mouth, etc. But start with your eyebrows. Can you all just raise just your eyebrows? Not your eyelids, not like that, just your eyebrows. Okay, that's good. I see you're practicing very well. And now this time, just raise your eyelids. Okay. Now, to help you do this immediately, what I find helps is to think of somebody you know who may make some of these expressions. For example, I remember going into a shop and the person who was at the cash almost didn't even acknowledge my existence. So it was like this. Yeah, right. Yeah, as if I care. Sure. And then to get the bug eyes, or my eyes are like that, I just imagine my mom. She's not on this webinar, so it's okay. I can talk about it. And what she would do, because we had a lot of kids in our family, and she didn't want to yell. She was a teacher, so she's using her voice all day. And then she'd just do this when she was mad. So that might help you remember it. So let's start. Wake up your eyebrows. Add your eyelids, relax your eyelids, relax your eyebrow. Now reverse. So eyelids, eyebrows, eyebrows go down, eyelids go down. You can practice that in front of a mirror. It really helps. Make it part of your routine. When you wake up in the morning, you're brushing your teeth, try moving these isolated facial features. Let's go down to the nose. Okay, so can you flare your nostrils like, ooh, a bad smell? Ooh. Good. Some people can isolate just one side. I can just do my left. For some reason, I can't do my right one, and I can practice. I'll do the practicing after the show is over. And then you can try to flatten your nose. There's a little muscle right here at the tip of your nostril, and you can pull it down. Okay. Now your mouth. Mouth is easy. Make it small. Ooh. Make it big. Ah. Ooh, ah. Ooh, ah. And then roll it around in circles. Let's move it clockwise. Ready, set, move it. If you want to make sound effects, that's awesome. Now counterclockwise. Okay. There's so many things you can do with your face. Take your time. You can even isolate maybe just your lower lip. Maybe just your upper lip. This one's a little tougher. Think of Elvis. Okay, and if you put it together, you get this. And I know you can do it because I could not. How I made it happen was using my fingers and then touching my face and moving my face. And that worked. It woke it up. So now there was something else, and that's walking. I was dragging my right foot. So I'm going to share my screen, and let me show you this mime walk where I learned to isolate my feet, to make my feet move normal. So let's start that. Just watch first. Okay, and I'm going to stop sharing, and then I want to talk to you about what you just saw. What I did was I practiced by putting my heel first down on the floor when I walked, because my big toe wanted to lead, like drop foot, I think is what it's called. It's only on my right side. Everybody's different with Parkinson's. So I isolated the different movements involved in walking normally. And that's what I learned when I was studying mime, was how to walk like that. And it helped me heal myself as a person with Parkinson's to walk more normally. Now, I'd like to mention to you about these techniques. They they helped me, but I didn't want to just have them for myself. I wanted to share them with my PD brothers and sisters all over the world. So I was very fortunate, and with support from Parkinson Canada, I was able to produce a series of 12 self-study videos. And I'm going to share, let me see, I'm going to share my screen and show you a little snapshot of the program. So let me do that. And there we are. Can you see that all right? Okay. Okay, thank you. So if you want to understand better what I've learned myself, these are very short little videos that you can check out. I also practice these with people with Parkinson's. Before we put this together, I was fortunate in collaborating with the University of Guelph in Ontario, Canada. And these three professors, Dr. Kim Francis, Dr. Rebecca Barnstable, and Dr. Lorianne Vallis worked with me to design this the technique that would help with improving gait, balance, fluidity, and range of movement. And we also worked with people with Parkinson's. So we trained the students, and then the students trained other classes and people with PD at different levels of the disease. Now, I think I've got these videos here. Let me show you one. This is important because we have a PD Mime principle. There are 6 principles. So this little short clip will explain what these are. And if you look at it, think about if you have PD, what is the most annoying symptom for you physically, okay? And this will help you override some of these problems. So I'll share my screen. And
Barbara,
yes.
I'm really enjoying these videos, and they're coming through really well. The sound for me is a little bit glitchy, and I'm just wondering if that's the same for you, Sam, or is it? Yes. What I would suggest, Barbara, is it might be good if you could talk over the video, because we can hear you really clearly. So if there's something that you need to explain as the video's playing, let's see how we go. The joys of technology across the world.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't need to share that video. I can just tell you. It might be
whatever works for you, Barbara.
When I was working with trying to frame things so that you could logically work through the physical problems, I looked at my own self. And my problem was spilling water on my feet when I walked across the room. So I would have a glass, and my hand being so weak would start to tip in. So I became aware. Number 1 is be aware of what you'd like to change. And then I started, number 2, to observe what I'm doing. And I was walking across the room like that, and then my hand get tired, and then I would spill it. So I had to learn to hold it the opposite direction. So number 1 was aware. Number 2 is you're observing. Number 3, you're now analyzed. So I realized to not spill that water on my foot, I had to slightly turn my hand the opposite direction, the opposite of what it wants to do. And I then added imagery. I clipped it into imaginary Velcro right here, or you could imagine a hook. And now when I walk through the room, I've got a little tab of Velcro and an imaginary wall there. So that's the analysis. I would watch how people move normally with compensating for that weakness. And then number 4, visualize it like a movie in your mind's eye. So I would see myself walking normally through the room with my hand tilted slightly the opposite direction. So that was visualize. And then I would do it again in mime. So number 5, I would pick up the mime glass, walk through the room with my hand slightly turning. And then finally, number 6, do it all in real life. Ta-da! And I stopped spilling water on my feet. It really worked. But I had to work very hard. I had to be very mindful. So you don't have to do these exercises for a long period of time. They're only on the average 2 to 5 minutes long. But mindfully, be focused. That's the most important thing. And let me think. I'm moving forward now. We've got, the concepts. There are 3 mime concepts, because I say, then do it in mime. Well, that's easy to say, but how do you do that? So it breaks down to 3 concepts. And the first is called freeze, relax. Freeze, freeze, relax, relax. I don't know why I always hear echoes in my head when I say that. But you've seen the mime wall, okay? That's a very common mime illusion where your hands are on a flat surface, okay? Now, that would not look like a real wall if I only had freeze, if I only had frozen hands. I need the contrast between freeze and relax. And relax is simply when I take my hand off the wall, my hand is now very relaxed. The other hand is frozen. So let's try that right now. Let's get your hands flat. When I say go, clap once and press really hard. Are you ready? Set, go. Press real hard. Pull them apart and show me that they're flat. That's good. Not like that, but like that. That reads better to others. Okay? Now relax, relax. And when I say go, I want you to put your hand on the wall and freeze. Go. Okay? And then take that off and put the other hand freeze. Freeze, relax, relax. Very good. Okay. So that's freeze, relax. Number 2, we're moving on to the second concept, is space substance. And I find it's basically shaping space. So I'm going to start with a real object, a ball. Maybe you have an orange or an apple, it works just as well. And I look at it and I feel it. This has texture, so I also feel the texture. I feel the shape, the weight, and if there's temperature, maybe it's cold, if it's a fruit from inside your fridge. Focus on all these senses and then shut your eyes. And with your eyes shut, move the object around. Maybe you throw from one hand to the other hand, and then open your eyes and put the object down. And now with your imagination, visualize that ball in front of you and pick it up. What did I do wrong? Hello, I've crushed it. Oh, I've got some dye here on my hand. So I've crushed that ball, so I've got to respect that shape, okay? And really see it with your imagination and then pass it to the other hand. You may throw it up, catch it in the other hand. I'm going to add one more suggestion. When you practice moving an object in mime using the concept space substance, do it in slow motion. So it's like this. On the other hand, opened up. So, boof. And I also suggest to activate your whole brain, use sound effects. It helps my own self remember when I have some sounds such as up, ooh, bang, up, ooh, bang. And then It just gets in there a little bit stronger. So that is space substance. Space substance is great. I'm going to show you how I drink real water, and then I want you to tell me what I'm doing wrong with my space substance in mind. Okay, this is the water, the real thing. Now I'm doing it wrong in mind. Watch. I know I did something wrong. I did actually 2 things wrong. Now, I can't really see the chat right now. We'll have proper question answer towards the end of the webinar. So I'll give you the answers. Mom's not here, so she won't get mad at me. I took that glass and I crushed the glass right in my mouth like this. But when I drink from a real glass, I have to allow some space from where my thumb is holding onto the glass to where my lips touch the glass. Okay? And there was one other thing I did really badly. Watch. I poured water all over my face. So pay attention, be mindful, really focus on what you see, what you feel. These are powerful things. You can become hyper aware of your body if you have Parkinson's. You can create a new neural pathway and wake up other parts of your brain that maybe were not working as much. So that might be of use. Oh, third concept, very important. I'll give you a hint. That's point fix, where either an object gets locked in space or perhaps a part of your body gets locked in space. Okay, or a mime object, like this mime ball, gets locked in space. You may have seen on the internet, I've noticed some people do point fix with a balloon. And I'm sorry, I don't have a balloon handy here, but that's a lot of fun. So with point fix, that's where something does not move, but everything around it does. And there's a simple way to practice this with your shadow. No one will tell you, but I'll tell you. Just let's get closer. Use your shadow. And to do that, I often step outside if the weather permits. But then you can see if your shadow's moving ever so slightly more easily than if you're practicing alone. A mirror will help you as well. And if you're indoors, you can shine a light behind you that would help to create a cast shadow. And then you could judge for yourself if it's moving back and forth. Aim to keep that shadow still. Aim to keep your object, if that's what you're holding on to, still. Okay, it wakes up your whole brain. Now, I know that, that there are so many things that you can learn with mime. And the one thing that I found is fun. It makes me start seeing things and paying attention. And I stopped feeling sorry for myself because I was starting to feel a little bit depressed when I got this diagnosis. So you can override a lot of these problems by keep on moving mindfully. And then, you know what? Live life fully. It's worth it. Life's good. Let's make PDR bitch. Thank you. Do we have time for some questions? Oh, I forgot. You can email me. I forgot to tell you. My email is info@mimeovermind.com, and the website is mimeovermind.com. If you want to see the videos, just add a /videos.
That's great. Thank you, Barbara. We've already had a couple of questions actually saying, how do we access the videos? So you preempted that question and put it straight up there, which is wonderful.
And they're all free. They're all free. And there's handouts as well. So for each lesson, you could print out a PDF that has some diagrams as well as photos and step-by-step guide.
That's amazing. Thank you, Barbara. We've had a question actually from someone who said, how long have you actually had your diagnosis, and how long were you aware of symptoms?
Well, I got diagnosed 5 years ago in January 20th, 2020, just before COVID. And I had symptoms that I was aware of with, like a shaky hand, for example, 2 years before I was diagnosed, because I was being told, you're just aging. Go away and age. And I'm a painter, and I knew this was not normal. So every 6 months I kept coming back, something's wrong with my hand. Now, I have been retired. I used to be head of a visual arts department in a downtown Toronto high school. And I've been retired 11 years now. And I remember when I was still teaching, I had trouble writing on the chalkboard. Well, and then when I went to the back of the classroom looking at what I wrote on the board, it was like a wave going down. All my lines went down. So, and shoulder, I had a lot of pain in my right shoulder a few years before I even noticed my hand was shaking.
Yeah, thank you, Barbara, for sharing that. I think sadly it's quite a common story, isn't it, that people have had symptoms for a while and they don't get the diagnosis for sometimes a few years. And that's a tough time for people. They know something's wrong, but they're not on the treatment. They're not getting the clarity. So I think unfortunately that story is more common than we realise. I've got a question for you actually, which is you've obviously got this background in mime and you had all of that knowledge, and then you were diagnosed with Parkinson's. And I'm interested, when did you realise that mime could be therapeutic? When did you use all of that expertise to think, hang on, I can use this to improve some of my symptoms?
I got mad. I got very mad. I had my first neurologist was not helpful. He was focusing on getting himself rated to be #1 doctor on ratemymd.com. And I had no titration where they gradually introduced medication. So and he said, mix and match, you know yourself, you know your body, you do what you like. And I ended up in a chemically induced depression. And I finally stopped going to him, and my family doctor and neurologist washed my body out. They cleared the poisons out of my system. When I came to, I noticed the PD had progressed. It was now all over my whole arm. Before, it was just my elbow here, down my leg. And I was mad. I was furious because this is my life. And I lost my agency with that doctor. So I decided right then and there, I'm going to do the job he was supposed to do. And I started doing research. And I donated my body to science while I'm alive. I'm on many research projects right now. A few are in my app on my watch. It measures my tremor, my dyskinesia, my sleep. And then I found a book called The Brain's Way of Healing by Dr. Norman Doidge. I always have trouble saying the last name, Doidge. And there's a chapter called A Man Who Walked Off His Parkinsonian Symptoms. And that was a story about John Pepper, a man who taught himself to move normal. And he was really doing the mime walk. He was breaking down the movements to how to move normally. And he sped it up and he did speed walking. And I thought, I can do that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Barbara. Somebody's also asked, so you've talked about the book where you first heard of, the potential for possibly mime, but do you know if there's any other research supporting the use of mime?
Yes, there is. Yeah, there is. It was with people with facial paralysis. And they found that people who had some movement, they using mime, like facial isolations like I demonstrated, that was putting on mime lipstick, that they regained, they woke up and could override the paralysis. Those who had full facial paralysis, they had some improvement, but not as much as the people who had a little bit, had more movement. So it's very good, I think, and the professors that I'm working with, we still have a big project ahead of us that we're going to look at. But my theory is that if you start the therapeutic mime early on in your diagnosis, and do it a little short but frequently, and be fully present, and not go for the best, but your personal best, you will regain many of the different mobility that are compromised with Parkinson's.
Fascinating. Thank you, Barbara. Someone else has also commented that this sounds like it aligns with the Feldenkrais method. Have you heard of that and any experience?
Yes, I have. I'm not an expert of that technique. I know a little bit about it. So forgive me if I'm incorrect here, but I believe it's where the mind is working with the body. You put your consciousness into a section, work with the breath, and almost like picture like an energy around you. But again, I don't want to say too much about Feldenkrais because it's been a while since I studied.
Barbara, we're getting all sorts of really positive responses here. Marianne's just said, you're such an inspiration, Barbara. And she also loves Dr. Deutsch's work. So I think you're touching a lot of people here with this webinar. And actually, as a doctor, I just wanted to add that things like facial expression, they do improve when people take their medication. But sometimes people still say they're not improving enough. And I really like this idea that we can use, we're not saying do away with medications, we're saying medications and something else. And I think this is just lovely to hand people back that control to further improve expression or movement.
It's so true. When my meds, I'm dealing with my meds not working very effectively right now. I just saw my neurologist, and I'm getting some additional tools in my toolkit, so to speak. But when the meds were wearing off, I had to take my levodopa every 3 hours. They no longer kick in until half an hour in, and they stop working half an hour before that 3 hour window. So I was compensating by using the cue where I felt my heel touch the ground. I had to be more mindful than normal. But once the meds kick in, these now are all automatic because I know what I'm doing. I've been practicing mindfully for about 3 years. Working on this.
And I guess somebody's asked how you manage your tremors, Barbara. Do you use mime to help the tremors in any way, or any other methods?
It's a mystery to me. I'm in that I had a lot of tremors for the first couple of years, but for some reason I don't have hardly any. I don't know why. I paint as well and I illustrate, and I notice when I'm completely focused on what I'm drawing or painting, the slight tremor stops completely. And we explored this with my classes with the Therapeutic Mime. We inject some circus games as well with objects. And one of them is taking a peacock feather and putting the point on the open hand and having the participants focus completely on the colorful feathers at the top. And if they're able to walk, I have them walk across the room. If they're unable to walk, I just have them focus on balancing it while they're sitting down. And everybody, I always say, is amazing. The tremors stop. And my students freaked out. They go, oh my God, the tremors stop. So there's something there.
Yeah, Barbara, I used to have a patient that I looked after in the UK actually, and she worked it out herself, and she came in and said, Jane, if I pretend my shaky hand is on a wave and the wave of water is coming into the shore, I can stop the tremors. And I found that absolutely fascinating. I didn't know about your work at that point, but I think some people are working this out, but I like the way your approach formalizes that.
I think it's called paradoxical kinesia. And that's where you can, for no reason, suddenly you're moving normally. And I have written about that in my website. There's I can't quite remember which page it's on, but paradoxical kinesia. And there's a few different people who've shared their stories on when this happens, people with Parkinson.
Fantastic. Thank you, Barbara. We also had someone ask if there is a miming routine that you do daily.
Well, I work out every day. Okay, one day off. But what I find is I focus on the neutral position. That's how to stand tall, where I just and work on the shoulders. And I do that, and I walk about mindfully in neutral position. I also find myself practicing the three concepts throughout my day. I've been doing mime since I was 16 years old, and I'm 66, so 50 years I've been doing mime, and it's so real to me now. Like this rope here, I had to move that rope because it keeps getting in my way. It's so real. So I pepper it throughout my day. I personally think what I recommend for people who are new to mime, I would say short but frequent. So maybe 3 times a week, 20 minutes, half hour would be lots of time. If you prefer to do it more often but shorter, that's also good. 15 minutes, maybe 5 times a week, while you're brushing your teeth, while you're cooking a meal. You can practice some of the techniques.
Can I jump in with a question there, Barbara? Do you think, these are very movement-based tasks, aren't they? But do you think there could also be some benefits to the non-motor symptoms? I'm thinking perhaps if somebody was feeling, great anxiety, which is very common in Parkinson's, is the mindfulness element of this perhaps also having some positive effects on the anxiety as well?
Yeah, I think it is. I don't have scientific proof. But what I find happens when I was working with people with Parkinson's and teaching them the 3 concepts, their focus was so intense on the texture, the shape, the color, the size, the weight, that it calmed them down. It sort of like shifted from this state of anxiety and wondering what do people think of me, and are they noticing my tremor, to focusing on the object in front of you. And it just seemed to calm them down, calm me down. That's a good question. Well, right to your mom, Jane.
Wonderful. Thank you, Barbara. Someone else has asked, do you think taking mime instruction, if it were available, would assist in becoming more proficient? And if so, as a resident of Canada on the West Coast, do you know of any groups that offer this?
I'm not sure right now, but I can tell you that in Canada, we're about to have a community partnership with Dancing with Parkinson's. And they studied through David Leventhal in New York, Dance for PD. And so through the teachers, I'm training the teachers, and they in turn will integrate some of the mime techniques into their existing PD mime class, PD dance classes. Because they really are complementary. And in case you don't have an instructor, the videos are there for you, and you can email me questions.
Wonderful, thank you. And there's just another question. Somebody's mentioned the LSVT Big program, which is a one-on-one done with physio over 4 weeks, and they wonder if you have any experience doing this, and if that's helped at all. Jane, you might know the acronym LSVT.
Yeah, I've not heard of that acronym. Could you tell me what it means?
Yeah, I thought LSVT was the Lee Silverman voice therapy, which originally was developed for people with Parkinson's who have a quiet voice or a voice lacking some intonation. So it's all very much about making the sound louder to enable more clear communication. And this was news to me, but on our MOOC, I think we had somebody talking about LSVT has now branched out a bit more into physio as well, but using the same principles, move big, bigger than you might think to actually have a normal movement. So that's my understanding of that approach.
I'm not familiar with that particular technique. However, I used to be a drama teacher. And we work a lot with our voice, our diaphragm, and integrate with movement. And I also find to override the feeling sort of quiet and rolled in, to get large, exaggerate and play it to the top. So like speak as if you're a soap opera star. Really? I don't know about that. Or maybe a religious leader. You are saved. And so just play around with your voice. And then the volume and the power seem to come back.
Yeah, and somebody else has said here, Tiana, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. This is very encouraging. Thank you, Barbara. I am not surprised that mime helps. I've worked out myself that if I imagine the movements I want to make, break down the components and then do them slowly, I can then do the movement. So I think that person's actually describing mime, aren't they?
That's beautiful. Yeah, they're right on.
Yeah.
Take your time. Use all your senses. This is the other thing that I purposely do, is to weave multisensories in absorbing and learning the new techniques. So you've got that visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile. I use movement, I use music, sound effects, tactile. And when you weave them all together, it really does accelerate the learning and it helps you retain it. So give it a try.
Brilliant. Thank you, Barbara. We do have a couple of questions just about TAS Test, Jane, which is going to be coming out next month. Somebody has asked if they have completed TAS Test as part of the Island project, will the results be transferred to the Parkinson's project?
Yeah, that's a great question. So some people that are part of the Tasmanian Parkinson's Project may have done TAS Test through another research project at the university. I would say really the choice is yours. If you want to do it again, we will be able to link both data sets. And it is quite nice actually people do it twice because we can see, did we get the same result, a month ago as now? That's what we call retest reliability, which is super useful data for us. But on the other hand, if you think, I'm done this year, I've done it, that's fine too. We can just use the data that you've already given. So yes, you'll notice when you sign consent forms for research studies at the university, it normally has a line that says, we consent to our de-identified, that means no names attached, but our de-identified data being joined together so that if you're in different research studies, we have ways of connecting that. So great question. We're keen for everyone to do TAS Test, but no pressure.
Great. Okay. And then we did have somebody else mention the MOOC, and they've said they know a lot of people who are waiting for it to come back online because they're very keen to complete the Parkinson's MOOC. And they've heard great positive feedback. So I think they're just wondering when it's likely to be online again.
Oh, that's music to my ears. I'm so glad people are keen to see the MOOC back online. We're hoping that it'll be back online in September. If you look on Class Central, this is where people can give feedback on any MOOCs. We're delighted to see we got 4.9 stars out of 5. And out of about 10,000 healthcare MOOCs, believe it or not, this is the drum roll, we are 4th in the world. So we overall think the feedback's been good, but we're not complacent. There will be little parts that we can improve a bit further. And that's why we've just taken it offline, literally for a couple of months, just to refine it a little bit. And then it will be launched again in September. And we'll put out some social media announcements when it's coming out. I'm pretty certain you can go onto the MOOC webpage and put your email address in to say, like pre-registering. So when it comes out, you're front of the queue, you get told about it first. But it will be coming out soon. Thank you for the question.
Lovely. Well, we've got a couple more minutes if anybody else has any burning questions they want to pop in the chat. I think we've answered all the ones that are in there for now. We're making great time.
And while they're doing that, I want to thank you all for inviting me to be part of the MOOC. It was fascinating to see all the different people and learn from other people and hear their stories. So thank you.
Barbara, I think you are such an engaging speaker, and I think there's so many topics you could talk on. I wouldn't be surprised if we have requests for you to come back on our webinar. I mean, we've not even touched on your art, have we? And that wonderful book that was produced through Parkinson's Europe. I don't know if you briefly want to mention that, because again, I think it's a great resource for people to access. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I illustrated this book called What Parkinson's Feels Like because Parkinson's Europe sent out my question, what does Parkinson's feel like to you? Because everybody's different. This was Carl Beach, his description, which is Parkinson's is like an unpredictable beast. And he never knows when it's going to trip him up. And this one was by a woman who talked about her shaky hand, and putting on makeup now is challenging, to say the least. And I made this available for free. You can go over to Parkinson Europe's website, Parkinson's with an S, Europe.org, I believe. It's right here. Yep, .org. And write in my name, Barbara Salsberg Mathews, or just the book title, and it's there. And you can download a free e-version. We ask if you can to give donation to Parkinson Europe or Parkinson Canada or PD Avengers. And if you want the paperback version, you can get that through Amazon in your country. All the Amazons carry that.
That's fantastic, Barbara, and we'll do our best to put the link on that on our website as well. And actually, many of the people that contributed to that, like Carl Beach and like Rochelle Flanagan, they were also on the MOOC. So there's all these kind of joined up links there. But, you know, as a doctor, when I diagnose somebody with Parkinson's, what they often say is, I feel so alone. I feel so isolated. And obviously, it's wonderful to connect with other people through webinars or in person. But actually, something like your book just really helps people feel connected and realize they're not alone. We're in this together.
We also, all the profit goes to these 3 charities. I don't keep any money from it. And it helped with a physiotherapist said her patient had trouble describing what the physical problems were, showed her the book, and pointed to the person walking in wet cement and the person whose body was all tied in knots. And then the physiotherapist was better able to help that patient to work on a program.
Yeah, well, Barbara, you've had so much impact today. I've got messages here from Keith and Kirsty and Andrea and Maria, all saying a huge thank you to you, Barbara. Maria says, I admire your determination and perseverance to deal with Parkinson's. You are an outstanding communicator. Thank you.
I'll leave with one thought if I can, because this is my philosophy of life. And Parkinson's reminds me how precious life is. I'm aware of my diminishing time and energy to get things done. So I got rid of negative people in my life best I can. And I focus on today and what I can leave behind. And if I hear good music playing, you can be sure I'll be dancing to it, baby. Well, thank you.
Barbara, that is a perfect place to finish the webinar, I feel. I think we're all going to be leaving here with a spring in our step now, a positive outlook. Life brings many challenges, and I think living with Parkinson's brings additional challenges, but what a great philosophy. Absolutely.
3 years, no progression of my PD.
Just amazing. Barbara, I'd like to thank you once again on behalf of everybody in the Tasmania Parkinson's Project for giving your time and your expertise so generously. I've learnt loads, and I think that so many people, looking at the comments coming in, we're really grateful to you for all of your input. And just to say to our viewers that have kindly joined us today, we will have a recording of this webinar on our website. So if you want to spread the word about Barbara's wonderful work, it'll be there on our website. It usually takes about 24 hours to upload. But I'd just like to thank you once again. Final words from you, Barbara.
Well, thank you all, and my PD sisters and brothers. I do all this for you. Life's a gift. Let's live it fully. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.